Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 28th of March 2023. So yesterday I said I was going to be watching a video from Ivor Cummins, and it turned out to be a bit of a binge fest on his content, because I watched that video I was talking about, which was an hour, kind of about 1.5 hours long, and then during that video he mentioned a talk by the Swedish guy he was interviewing. He did a complete talk, and the link was in his description box, not the one on my video here, but on Ivor Cummins' video. There's a link to go and watch that. So I went along and watched that, and then towards the end of the interview video, the first one, he was talking about another video that he did. This is Ivor Cummins I'm talking about, and that was called The COVID Chronicles, and I clicked on that and went along and watched that. All three of them very, very interesting. You're going to need about sort of 3 hours to watch them all, because they're all kind of an hour and a half long, hour long, sort of 45 minutes long, whatever it was. So most of an evening's entertainment for you, but well worth it. I really enjoyed the interview with the Swedish guy and his talk. They were talking about how corrupt everything is, how big media, big pharma, etc. are owned, well, originally even set up by the likes of the Rockefellers and completely owned by them. Nothing kind of gets done in those industries or said in those industries unless it's approved by the Rockefellers and the other people like them, who seem to be in control of all of this stuff. And it's very interesting, because up until about 100 years ago, of course, or maybe a little bit more now, big pharma and medicine in general was completely different. It was all about natural remedies and healers and all of that kind of thing. Every village had at least one healer that you could go along to, and they'd probably grind up some kind of roots for you or something like that, a concoction made out of natural things like that, and tell you to go away and sip on some of that. And that is no more, because it was demonized by the Rockefellers, and well, you know, we've now got what we've got now. You can't really go anywhere, well, unless you sort of find a natural healer who's still around. That they are out there, of course, alternative medicine, but most people just believe the mainstream and just go along to their doctors and take some big pharma concoction instead. I always wondered, actually, well, I began to wonder before all of the nonsense kicked off 4 or 5 years ago, why is it when you go to the doctors with some, let's say you've got a nasty rash somewhere, why is it always pills and tablets and injections that they give you? Why is it never anything like, oh, well, you know, just take this kind of concoction, like a natural remedy thing, and, you know, sort of do that instead? Well, we know the answer now, don't we? So anyway, it's things like that that was being covered in this, and much, much more as well. So do go and check out those Ivor Cummins videos, highly recommended. And the third one that I watched, the COVID Chronicles, that appears to be something that Ivor's put together, which is a compilation of all of his stuff that he's done over the last 3 years. So he's talking about, well, it's showing him talking about things that he was talking about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, you know, about all of the normal stuff that we've been talking about. Things like, you know, natural immunity, the big V, lockdowns, the lurgy itself, and just so many other things. And when you watch a thing like that, everything just comes flooding back. And what I like about Ivor is, as he says in one of his videos, he doesn't really do anything unless he's got data and facts and figures. You know, if you come out with something, the first thing he'll say to you is, show me the data or show me the figures. He actually says that in one of his videos, and apparently that's his career up to date has been ingrained that into him, how important that is to ask that kind of question. And that is why he has come out with the independent, well-researched stuff that he's done. He hasn't really said anything unless he's looked at the data and all of the figures, and if things make sense, he'll say, yeah, you know, that makes sense to me. And if they don't, he'll call it out and say what a load of old rubbish it is. Kind of a bit like what we've been doing, but he's, I suppose, is a lot more pro at it than I am. I'm kind of definitely an amateur, although I have done a lot of research. I've looked into things. When I made my decision about the Big V, it wasn't because of some knee-jerk thing. It's because I spent many months looking at hundreds of articles and videos and written pieces here, there and everywhere, a lot of it by very, very eminent people and very well-informed people, like the likes of Ivor Cummins and the kind of people he talks to and many others, and that is what I based my decision on. So I think one lesson, to sort of more mainstream people, is if there's one thing I can sort of tell you, is just don't kind of farm out your research to the likes of the BBC and big media and expect to get an informed, enough facts and figures together from them to make an informed decision. Because again, as these videos will show you, they are all kind of corrupt. They're all bought and paid for by big pharma and other vested interests. So they're not going to give you all of the independent facts, are they? It's going to be highly biased, and it's going to be biased towards whatever narrative is being pushed at the time. So you need to get out and do a little bit more research than that. The days of doing that kind of thing, just relying on the government and the BBC and their experts, those days are gone. You cannot rely on them to make important decisions, especially when it comes to your sort of well-being. And that is a big lesson I've learned over the last few years, and you need to be much more of a detective about things. In fact, you could probably do worse than getting some basic training in detective work or journalism or investigating facts, researching things. If there's some course out there that does that, tells you where to look and the kind of where you start and the kind of questions you should be asking, that may well be worth studying. And I could do with that myself, although I've kind of picked up on that kind of thing greatly over the last few years anyway. You just sort of get stuck into all of the things that come your way, and you end up going down the rabbit hole, as it's called, and after many hours you hopefully get to more or less the end of it, kind of thing, and then you can come to some sort of decision. But people just need to be a lot more do a lot more detective work, is what I'm trying to say. I'm sure most people who watch this channel, they are like me, that's exactly what they do. But if you're a bit newer here, And if there's one bit of advice, if I may be allowed to give any advice, that would be it. Just don't take things as read. Just don't accept the first thing especially the government and the mainstream media tells you. Just you need to look into things a little bit more. And with that in mind, when you look back on this COVID Chronicles, the third video I'm talking about, all the old memories came flooding back, and it really is a wonder how, because all of the data was there, as Ivor Cummins will show you, in that, he was saying at the time, the facts and the figures just don't support wearing masks. The facts and figures just don't support lockdowns, and it was all there. And then the data was coming through about the Big V, how it doesn't stop you passing the lurgy on, and all of that was there, and yet people just were still going crazy, were still insisting on mandates and lockdowns and all of the rest of it. And I remember myself screaming from the rooftops, well, look, the data is saying this, why are you still persisting? But I suppose that is all part of the madness of what happened a year ago, 3 years ago. It literally was a period of madness, and kind of all of that came flooding back when I watched this video. So highly recommend all three of them. You can find the first one. I'll put it was in the description box of my video yesterday, but I'll put it on this one as well in the description box in the comment section below. And then the Swedish chappie's talk you'll find in Ivor Cummins' description box on his video. And then when you sort of look through those videos, you'll see that a link to the COVID Chronicles. I think it's just the covidchronicles.com or something, but it does appear in the interview that he does with the Swedish chappie, whose name I can't remember, but I'll put his name along here as well, just so you know what that is and what you're looking for. And just to finish up on, quite an interesting one. I'm a little bit behind on answering my emails. I haven't really done that since Friday, so if you've sent me anything recently, I will get round to answering you in the next day or two, so no worries there. But one of the first ones I came across was from a guy who's he's got to go to the hospital for a checkup, and apparently he was saying that you now have to go, when you go for a hospital appointment, you now have to take 2 forms of ID, not just one, but 2. And you'd never had to do that before. And, he was asking the question why. So if you know anything about that, please leave a comment in the comment section below. But he was saying, he's going to have a bit of a laugh and take the proverbial when he goes there, and if he is asked for his 2 forms of ID, he's going to sort of say, well, maybe it should be better, instead of having 2 forms of ID, maybe just have a mark on my forehead or maybe on my right hand. How about that? But he kind of intimated this, and I'll repeat it. The chumps behind the desk there will probably go, oh, what a good idea that would be. Kind of reminds me a little bit of an incident I had in a petrol station when I was filling up the van out there a few months ago. I was in the queue, and the guy in front of me was having a little bit of a problem, pain with his card. I think he was having problems remembering his PIN number or whatever it was, and he and the lady were sort of saying, oh, it'd be a lot better if you just had a chip in your hand, and you could just go beep on the machine. That would be so much better. And they were actually thinking that was going to be a good idea. Just if only they knew. if only they knew what we know, they would sort of think so much more differently, wouldn't they? So, going to leave it there. I've kind of gone on quite a long time here. I thought this was just going to be a quick one, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're up to 15 minutes on this now, something, or if not more. But I'm going to leave it. I'll be back tomorrow. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.